Hi guys, 26th of April. Just want to do a quick cover up of some of the issues we've gone over today. In East Asia Pacific, we've covered 29 events. The preeminent one was the Labor Day protest planned for Jakarta on the 1st of May. Fundamentally, workers groups, including the Confederation of Indonesian Trade Unions, known locally as the KSPI, said they'll gather at the Hotel Indonesia Roundabout and the General Election Commission office in Jakarta on May 1 to mark Labor Day. Obviously, these demonstrations are continuing on the surface. They're about demanding the prices of basic commodities be decreased. Really, though, it's all about the political tension. Our assessments cover off on that in great detail. Elsewhere in East Asia Pacific, obviously, I'm not going to go through the 28 issues, but 2 West Papua National Liberation Army fighters were killed in a shootout with security forces in Puncak Regency. In Malaysia, the Sabah government updated entry guidelines for international travellers into the state. Travellers now have a choice to do the rapid antigen test within 24 hours of arriving in the state. Also, in New Zealand, unidentified criminals raided 3 shops at the Ormiston Town Centre shopping centre in Auckland. And in Papua New Guinea, Qantas has finally put Papua New Guinea back on its international route with services between Brisbane and Port Moresby set to resume on April 29. Though I don't normally cover off in Myanmar, in addition to the 29 events, we've also just noting Myanmar continues to go from, more pear-shaped, shall we say, just covering off on Myanmar. Escalating tensions between the military and resistance groups occurred in the Mon state. The tensions between the Tatmadaw and resistance groups have escalated in that state after the Tatmadaw refused to withdraw from its camp in Bilin. The Karen National Defence Organisation on April 20 issued an ultimatum for the Tatmadaw to withdraw by April 23. The Tatmadaw responded by launching artillery strikes on the night of April 23. This has continued since then. At least 2 civilians were injured and 8 properties damaged by the artillery. Elsewhere, thousands of people have been displaced in Kiang Sikyi, KN state after clashes broke out in that area between the Tatmadaw and resistance groups on 23rd and 24th of April. More than 25,000 residents in the Sagyang region have been displaced due to village raids between the Tatmadaw, according to the media. I'll also note that in relation to people being displaced, forced removals, massive refugee situations developing, where we'll cover off on the statistics of that for our clients tomorrow. Developments in Yangon, explosions recorded in North Dagon, South Oklapa, Yankin, Tamoy, Bahan, Pabadan and Tingnanyun townships. Also, a Mytel communication tower in Pantorchong village in KM township was damaged in an explosion. In other parts of the country, 2 dead bodies and an injured person were found outside the National League for Democracy office in Mandalay yesterday. Now, this is a very detailed report, so I'll leave it at that. I'll just cover off, though, that since the coup, 2,336 civilian deaths, 6,685 government security forces deaths, and in the same period, 19,434 COVID-19 deaths. So not good, regardless of what column we look at. Any questions before I hand over to South Asia?
Hey, Paul, can we please elaborate on how businesses will be affected by the demonstrations in Jakarta or Indonesia as a whole of a country, for that matter?
These particular demonstrations, Bhargav, I don't think on their own are going to continue to escalate. The main reason they started was the inability of the elites to turn off the demonstrations by stating early, quickly and unequivocally that Jokowi is not going to support an extension of his tenure and he's going to abide by the Constitution. He did that late, so I think they're going to, he eventually did it. He did it badly and slowly. I think the point's across there now. I think there are much greater issues to consider in Indonesia for foreign investors, namely the lack of the implementation of the law, a corrupt judicial system, very vague rules, efforts to make it a better foreign direct investment just do not make it more competitive to other more efficient economies that it competes against in Southeast Asia and indeed South Asia. Any other questions, anybody?
Paul, how about Myanmar? Do you think it is the right time to go back to the country for investments, or should the foreign businesses consider pulling out? Where do you stand on that?
I think Western companies should, if they haven't already got out, get out. If they are thinking about going back, rethink that. I think it's going to continue to be a very unstable environment. It's going to continue to be led by the Myanmar military government. We can see in the trumped up charges against the former leader that there is no real effective rule of law there. There's no effective government. This is not to be confused with the Thai military government, that though not perfect, is perhaps infinitely better than the political parties. So it's certainly the lesser of two evils, but it knows how to manage effectively. I know there'll be many people in the Western world that aren't intimately aware of what I'm talking about. They're turning up an eyebrow. That's an eyebrow perhaps of not being really familiar with what I'm talking about. The Myanmar government is not that, however. It is the junta that the Western media talk about. The Taiwan isn't. So in short, Bhargav, it still has the official keep away rating. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. With that, shall we move over to South Asia?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for the coverage of East Asia Pacific. In South Asia, there were 14 other developments and one major issue that was assessed. That was in Pakistan. There were nationwide protests led by the now deposed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. They are targeting the election commission offices in major cities such as Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, Peshawar. Businesses need to note that these tensions are likely to continue in the short to medium term. Some of the people on the ground are actually saying this could be a trigger for PTI to gain greater majority in the next elections rather than see its demise. However, overall security situation seems to be stable, but overall it is actually tense. But security forces are capable enough to handle that. Other issues in South Asia includes the continued economic crisis in Sri Lanka. Railway workers union as well as healthcare workers unions have both declared strikes within the same week, within this week, in fact. So with that, it's a wrap for South Asia.